Alright, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming out in a couple of days. This video is being made to answer some questions that you might have prior to release. For those of you who don't know, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the second installment of a trilogy of games that are as a whole a remake of the original Final Fantasy VII that came out all the way back on the PlayStation 1. The video will not contain any spoilers for Final Fantasy VII Remake, the intermission episode, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Reunion, and, of course, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It makes sense because, well, the video will be out before the game's even released. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. So I just named a bunch of games that you might ask yourself, well, what do you need to have played before even starting with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? Surprisingly enough, you do not need to have played any of the prior games to enjoy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Co-director Motomo Toriyama said the following: "No, we have made preparations so that players who did not get a chance to play the first game could fully enjoy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will have a prologue section that recaps events of Final Fantasy VII Remake and Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. This is good for players who have been able to play any of the games prior to the release of Rebirth. And if you do want to play everything beforehand, here are the following games: Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is available on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. The PS5 and PC version are also known as Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate, Final Fantasy VII Remake Episode Intermission, which is a DLC that is exclusive to the PlayStation 5 and PC, which is included with the Integrate version of the remake, but if you upgraded your PS4 copy to a PlayStation 5 version, then you can purchase it separately on the PlayStation Store. Then you have Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, which is available on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Since Rebirth is coming out very soon, I would recommend playing Final Fantasy VII Remake and Episode Intermission if you have the time. It will roughly take you about 40 to 50 hours to complete both of them. These hours can, of course, vary, but I've used howlongtobeat.com as a general outline for these hours. Although I do recommend playing Final Fantasy VII Remake and Episode Intermission before Rebirth comes out, you might ask yourself, so what about Crisis Core? As mentioned before, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will have a prologue section that will bring players up to speed on the story. It's safe to assume that some elements of Crisis Core will be included in there, especially since Zack will also make an appearance in the game. Crisis Core originally came out on the PSP, but it has been brought to modern consoles in 2022. The story takes place before the events of Final Fantasy VII. That means that it's completely up to you if you want to play before Rebirth. I personally don't mind missing out on it for now and playing it later, since I currently don't have time to play it and I also don't want to rush through the game. And speaking of rushing through games, that brings me to my next question. How long will Final Fantasy VII Rebirth be? Although Final Fantasy VII Remake was well received, the consensus was that it's quite short. It was an extended version of the beginning of the game, so that it could fit within the trilogy of games. I personally put around 45 hours in the game, and that's just on a normal playthrough, most of the side quests done, and not going for a platinum trophy. I personally didn't have big issues with the length, but I can definitely see why people thought it was short. Director Naoki Yamaguchi said that players can expect to put around 45 hours of gameplay in the main story of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. However, if players decide to play side content, the amount of hours can range from 60 to 100 hours. That's quite a big difference compared to Final Fantasy VII Remake. So, if you wanted a longer game, well, there you have it. I couldn't think of a nice bridge to go from one topic to the other, so let's jump right into availability. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will come out on February 29th, 2024, and will be a part-time exclusive to the PlayStation 5. This will last until May 29th, 2024, which is quite short compared to Final Fantasy VII Remake's exclusivity deal of about a year. This doesn't mean that the game will automatically come out to PC or other platforms, but it could be an indicator that we could see a PC version sooner than we'd expect. There's currently no word on an Xbox or even a Nintendo version. So far, it's only going to be on PlayStation 5. And with any new release, there will be different versions of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth available. The physical versions will be the Standard Edition, which includes the base game, the Deluxe Edition, which includes the base game, a mini art book, a mini OST CD, and a steelbook, the Collector's Edition, which includes all the contents of the Deluxe Edition, a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Static Arts Sephiroth statue. For those of you wondering, the statue will be around 19 inches, circa 48 centimeters, and will have a detachable wing. The Collector's Edition will also have some DLC, which is the Moogle Trio summoning materia, a Magic Pot summoning materia, an accessory, which is the Reclaimant Choker, and some armor, which is an Orchid Bracelet. That is it for the physical versions of the game. There's also going to be some digital versions of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which will be the Standard Edition, which includes the base game, the Digital Deluxe Edition, which includes the base game, a digital mini OST, digital art book, and some DLC like the Magic Pot summoning materia, the Reclaimant Choker accessory, and the Orchid Bracelet armor. There will also be a twin pack, which will include Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And there will also be a digital deluxe twin pack, which includes Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate and the digital deluxe edition of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The prices of these editions may vary in your region, so I would recommend checking out your favorite shop for the exact prices. And that about wraps it up for the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it answered some questions that you might have had. Let us know in the comments if you're excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Are you going to pick it up on day one, or are you going to wait? And if you are picking it up on day one, what version of the game are you going to get? That being said, again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you later.